Here we are with the bird dog exercise. The bird dog exercise is an excellent exercise for people with low back pain. In fact, Dr. Stu McGill, one of the leading back health experts in the world, he really likes this exercise for people with low back pain. When we get the person into the position here, we want to make sure that their hips are at a 90-degree angle and the arms are underneath the shoulders. What that does is it naturally puts them into a position where they can maintain the natural or neutral lordotic curve of their spine. When we add in our 3BQ, we will have proximal stability or a punctum fixum, and you'll be moving the arms and the legs around this fixed point. Okay, first thing we're going to do is check in and ask Ben, how are you feeling?
I feel great, thank you.
Good. Your wrists okay?
Yeah, they feel okay. Yeah. Not too bad.
All right. If Ben were to say, my wrists don't feel
great,
then what we could do is we can roll the mat up this way, and what that does is he won't need as much wrist extension to get into this position. It's a common issue for people who don't spend very much time in this quadruped position. But in this case, Ben is in this position all the time, so he's pretty good. So we're gonna go right here. We're gonna put the dowel on Ben's back. We see it's contacting the head, the shoulders, and the hips. We slide our hand around at the lumbar curve just to check in. In some cases, we need a little bit more cat or camel to make sure that person's got the ideal position. And we can also check in with our client by putting a bit of weight on their shoulders just to check in that they feel nice and solid. Okay, so this is going to be our unpaid assistant. It's going to give us feedback if the person loses their neutral spine position at the head, T-spine area, or at the lumbar spine. So this progression here is for people with low back pain. What we want to do is we want to teach them to extend their hip without driving the motion from their lumbar spine. So in this case, Ben happens to have I'm just going to reach up his shorts. Is that okay? Always get permission if you're going to reach up someone's shorts. And I pulled out a slider. Thank you. Good game. Notice I said good game. So I'm going to put his foot right here. I'm going to go on this side so everyone can see. His foot's going to be on the slider, and all I'm going to ask Ben to do is he's going to activate with his 3B. He's pushing his hands into the ground, and he's just going to extend that hip. And what I'm looking for is there's no movement at his lumbar spine. So he gets into hip extension. Beautiful. Come on back in. So that's how we would start. Now extend the hip. And can you just unweight the foot? Just lift the toes off. Great. I still don't do any spine motion. Next, he can come on in. Then I can take the slider away. And now I can just ask Ben to extend the hip so that the leg is parallel to the ground. Great. Again, I'm just checking these 3 points that he's able to do that without driving any spine motion or any other compensations. So that's our bird dog regression, or our teaching progression for the very first time someone is doing the bird dog exercise. Use a slider, and then we can build them up. Hey, what happens if you see your client doing this? Watch when they extend the leg. Ben's going to lift it up in the air. He's going to drive the motion through his lumbar spine. Can everyone see this curve increasing and the leg coming up above his body this way? It's a very common way that this exercise is actually taught in certain classes. The other thing that you may see is when Ben goes to extend his leg, he doesn't fully extend it. The knee doesn't want to go into full knee extension. Here's a little trick to resolve that. So if you go right behind your client, right here, not at the side, but right behind, you put your hand on the heel, and when we say this, everyone, gentle pressure. Okay, so just gentle pressure. Ben's actually pushing against something, and then as he gets right to this end stage, then I can add a little bit more so he goes into more extension. And what that does is it really drives extension of the hip. And come back in for me. And then again, I give him a little pressure, and then I increase it as he goes into full extension. That progression there really helps to drive hip extension. Because remember, the erector spinae and the hamstrings also drive hip extension. But when you put a little pressure on the heel, the body naturally wants to recruit the biggest and strongest muscles to accomplish the action. So that's your little bonus for troubleshooting when someone doesn't extend the knee or if they lift the leg above parallel.